Garda Commissioner Noreen O'Sullivan, then acting commissioner in April 2014. Well, the special correspondent with the Irish Examiner, Michael Clifford, spoke to News Talk Breakfast this morning about Noreen O'Sullivan's comments and what they say about the way in which she's acted towards whistleblowers in the force.
The whole issue of somebody within the force coming forward with concerns and how they're addressed, that was first dealt with in the Morris Tribunal into Garda malpractice in Donegal, which had a series of reports culminating, I think, in 2008. It was out of that came a system, and Morris was very strong on this, that a system was needed for a so-called whistleblower to be able to bring his or her concerns forward. And out of that came the confidential recipient and all that stuff. Now, what the things around Maurice McCabe showed was that system of whistleblowing and the culture, the lack of a change of culture within the force, that was a big problem. And then, as we saw from that clip, Noreen O'Sullivan succeeds Martin Callanan, and she says, well, this is going to be a new system, a new setup. She gave some speeches in relation of it was important for people to come forward if they saw anything was wrong. And then, behind closed doors inside in the commission, it seems certainly in this instance a different approach was taken.
Now, that was Michael Clifford, special correspondent with the Irish Examiner, speaking to News Talk Breakfast this morning. On the line now is Paul Williams, special correspondent with Independent News and Media. Paul, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pat.
Now, what do you make of this piece of reporting from Michael Clifford, which suggests that the approach taken by the Commissioner, by counsel on her behalf, was very different to the approach that might be articulated in public?
Absolutely, and one of the things we discussed yesterday morning about this, Pat, was that this report seems to have raised more questions than answers. It has left people rather confused as to what exactly went wrong or didn't go wrong. But this report this morning certainly has raised probably the most serious issues yet about this whole scandal, and it is that, you know, we're told there are politically correct rhetoric being expressed in public and a completely different attitude being adopted behind the scenes. And what this is feeding into is that there is, first of all, I was listening to Dennis Bradley last night, and from the former senior member of the Northern Policing Authority, who talked very eloquently about Garda Síochána and expressed a serious fear that the morale and Garda Síochána, the esprit de corps was completely shattered. What's happening behind the scenes on Garda Síochána at the moment is perhaps best epitomised by Mick Clifford's report this morning. There is a disconnect between what we're hearing in public and what's happening behind closed doors.
Yeah. Now, what is interesting about this is that the Commissioner's legal representative was saying that the case they were making was that Sergeant McCabe was acting through malice, and that they would be demonstrating this. And the documents show that at the Commission, Mr. Higgins asked the Commissioner's lawyer whether you are attacking McCabe's motivation and attacking his character, and the reply from Colm Smith, senior counsel, was right the way through. And according to Mick Clifford, he told the judge that he was acting on instructions. So he wasn't just going off on a flyer, a solo run as a counsel. He was, as all counsel do, acting properly on instructions. So, I mean, that's kind of worrying. And the question is, if you like, the trail which led from the meeting with Sergeant McCabe with these two new senior officers, then telling it to another senior officer who presumably reported to the Commissioner and informed, therefore, the approach the Commissioner was taking, not knowing, of course, that Sergeant McCabe had a perfect transcript of the occasion.
And it would appear that Sergeant McCabe, while a lot of people were critical of him behind closed doors about him going out and taking people left, right and centre, he was proved to be perfectly correct. What this does as well, Pat, it undermines, this is the most senior, this is the person who leads our National Police Force. This is our Garda Commissioner, in which we have invested huge faith. If the Garda Commissioner speaks and says something on one side of our mouth public and then does something completely different, then that ultimately undermines faith and confidence, the public's faith and confidence in our Garda Síochána. But number two, the faith and confidence of the ordinary guards on the street in their own management. Now, this is an issue we discussed yesterday morning, and it becomes even more relevant today, Pat, and it is this. I made the point to you that 2 years ago, the Garda Commissioner went before a Dáil elected representatives, as in tape, that clip was in front of a Dáil committee. These are people who represent the Irish public, they're elected representatives. And she went before another committee and told them there was no problem with resources because it was politically sensitive at the time. Yet, could go along a number of weeks ago and tell the Superintendents Association, admit to them that the force had been devastated by cuts in resources. Now, the people who are affected by all of this disconnect between what is true and what is not are the public. The people who expect, when they pick up dial 999, expect Gardaí to turn up and back them up, and also the guards themselves to expect the backup from their own people. It is a very, very serious issue, but it is one of very many.
Yeah, but is the Commissioner always sort of piggy in the middle, in the sense that, she has to nod to her political masters, i.e. The Minister for Justice, and equally she has got to be sensitive to the needs and the demands of the force. So she's kind of playing the two games at once, and every Commissioner has to play the two games, not criticising government policy from within the force, but equally not rolling over in the face of maybe cutbacks.
Well, we discussed this yesterday. I was saying to you, that Callan and Pratt shouldn't have been forced to resign by Kenny, and Kenny should resign. And you wanted a salient word of what you just put to me there is the word game. It's not a game. We're getting all of this self-righteous rhetoric all the time being thrown at us about the new super-duper Garda Síochána. And we're now seeing what has transpired from this commission that was kept quiet, what happened behind closed doors, and wasn't reported as well, which is another question that all of this raises.
The deficit in the O'Higgins report is the problem here, that the Commissioner took a particular stance that turned out to be at odds with the evidence that was produced by Sergeant McCabe. What for me is very interesting is that Sergeant McCabe was so distrustful of the whole process that he felt he had to tape meetings with senior Gardaí, that he didn't trust anybody, even the people who were there ostensibly to find out the truth and to be independent reporters of his view, that he didn't trust them, so therefore he taped them.